I'm Jo Sarah, and welcome to the UMAVERSITY podcast, empowering you with real talk, real education, and real stories from our experts and our tribe of women who've got your back.
Yes.
Our mission? Educating 1 billion women worldwide on their mental, body, and sexual wellness journey.
Yeah.
So join me, learn something new as we build our badass tribe. Welcome to another episode of the UMAVERSITY podcast. I'm here today with Teodora Sabau, and she's a menstrual cycle coach and is an expert on women's well-being and knows everything about nutrition, fitness, and your cycle. So I'm super excited. Welcome, Teodora.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for our conversation today.
Yeah, me too. I've come to know you as so interesting of everything you say, and we've already had a masterclass from you, and it was very, very enlightening. So I'm really excited for today's episode. And today is all about balancing your work, life, and your pleasure as a woman. But before we start, I would love for you to tell a little bit more about yourself.
So I'm a menstrual cycle coach. Well, I chose to dedicate my work to really unpack these complexities of what defines a woman, or like what does it mean to live in a female body. There are a lot of complexities that happen within the female body. So that's what I dedicated my work. And so I help women reconnect with their bodies. And then in this process of reconnection with their bodies, they start to develop this sense of intuition, right? But not intuition in a psychic way, intuition in a way that women start to feel what feels good for them. And then they start to make decisions, and they change their lifestyle in a direction that works for them, and then they start the process of healing. So I use the menstrual cycle as a tool for self-discovery. That's mainly my work.
Wow, that's super beautiful. You're all about healing women in a way to give them the tools.
And so in my work, I also focus on mindset, and I focus on hormones. That's sort of my approach to what it means to understanding the menstrual cycle. So I focus on mindset because, well, apparently it's the only voice that we cannot remove from our lives, right? The inner dialogue that keeps on coming in our heads. And then if you think about it, you can remove any other voices that you have in your life. Think about any social conversations, social interaction, right? You have your family, your dear ones, your partner, your kids. If you want to isolate yourself, you can do so immediately, but then you cannot do that with your inner voice, right? So the only way to make peace with that is to start to master your inner voice, so master your mindset. Then I also work a lot with hormones. Why hormones? Because they are influencing everything in a woman's body. Right? Everything from the physiological needs to then emotional needs. Also, her brain changes every single month, and it's impacted by these hormones. So then indirectly her emotions and needs and the way that she relates to the world change. So understanding your hormones help you understand yourself, understand all those fluctuations that you go through naturally on a monthly basis. You have these patterns that are recurring on a monthly basis, and so you can take advantage of them.
Wow. Yeah, hormones can do so much to your body and also to your emotions, right? And to just how you feel in general. So today is all about balancing your work, your life, your pleasure as a woman, right? So how do you find balance? Let's start with balance between your work and your free time.
Well, when I think of balance, right, that the first image that comes to mind is a state of equilibrium, right? So a state where you have joy in life, where you enjoy your daily activities, where you enjoy your life. So then what happens is that we often look at our life and we evaluate our life from a very zoomed in perspective, right? We look at it, what's happening on a daily basis. So when you use this unit of a day to look into your life, it might look like you have an unbalanced life. Like some days you might feel very overworked, overwhelmed. And so really to look into, to check if your life is in balance, you have to zoom out. Exactly as you would look at a graph, right? If you want to observe a certain trend, you have to zoom out. Otherwise, you're not going to observe whether the trend is steady or it's moving upwards. So when you zoom out and you look at your stage in your life and you see an upward trend, like your well-being is going upwards, then it means you're in balance, right? And then one main pillar when it comes to balance, like one that you cannot achieve balance without, is health, right? If there is no health, regardless of how much effort you put in anything you do in life, you're not going to get there. So health is an agent to help you achieve your goals and reach that state of balance. So then I also look at health as a table with 4 pillars. I always like to use this metaphor. We have the nutrition, we have physical, we have emotional and spiritual. Those are the 4. Because health is not only the physical body, right? It goes beyond that. So if you want to stabilize a table that has 4 legs, you have to make sure that no leg is wobbling, right? Each one of them is stabilized. Otherwise, you're not going to get that balance. So you have the pillar of nutrition. Everything that you put in your body is fuel for your well-being. Then you have the physical, right? All the activities, your physical body. How does your physical body feel? And then you have emotional. That's the 3rd pillar. Everything about emotions. How do you feel emotionally? Right? How's your emotional load on a daily basis? And then you have the spiritual. How are you connected to God or like the higher force that you believe in? And then also how you pursue your purpose in life, because that's also connected to that spiritual realm. So when you manage to achieve balance between all these 4 legs of the table, then you have a stabilized table. So that's how I look at balance. And that's more like from an objective standpoint, how you would describe the table. So this is how you would look at balance objectively. Now, when you look at it subjectively, balance can look differently for every person, right? Each person would have different goals in life, but more than that, it's also a fluid thing in the sense that even for yourself as on an individual level, you might have different priorities at different stages in life, right? So that balance is going to look different for you. So for instance, if we take a woman in her early 20s, right? If you have the work-life pleasure pillars that you want to balance out, maybe you're going to be more interested in, falling in love or hanging out with the girlfriends, building a network of girlfriends and having holidays with family. You're going to be less focused on the career path. Could be not. It really depends on the person. But then maybe later in life, when you reach your early 30s, you want to focus more on your career, right? So then priorities shift, and with that your balance is going to look different. Let's say later on you want to be more family oriented, you want to start a family, then for you at that point family and relationships are more important. So you take pleasure in spending time with your family, taking care of your kids, maybe spending holidays with your loved ones. So balance at different stages in your life will look different. Now, coming back to me to answer your question, I am personally now at a stage where I just entered this stage of being more family oriented. I recently got married and we are thinking in maybe 2-3 years to have kids on our own. So that means I am preparing for that stage. So I chose now for the next 2-3 years to go full on my business because I want to slow down when that time comes and I want to make sure that I have enough time to spend with my family. So at the moment, my balance is going to look maybe 70% of my energy, I'm going to put it in my business. But I made a self-conscious decision and I made peace with that. I know that I cannot be 100% in all 3 pillars, like career, life, and pleasure. So I know I'm going to focus more on my career. Of course, you're going to sprinkle some activities in all areas of your life because that's where balance comes in. So again, health is really important with the 4 pillars. Make sure that whatever requires your energy at a certain stage in your life, that's what's going to get energy, because what gets your energy is what continues to grow. As long as you make peace with that and you don't expect from yourself to be 100% in all areas, that's how you achieve balance.
So if you actually want to find balance, it's really important that you first decide where you want to focus on. What are your priorities, right? And based on those priorities, you will define which pillar, let's say, which one has more priority. Will they all 4 be present always? Or is it more like one can just not be present?
For you to achieve that balance, you need to pay attention to all 4 of them. But you also have to be very much aware that not all of them can get the same focus, the same energy, the same output.
So it's also a little bit of acceptance, right? And accepting that you cannot sometimes focus on everything 100%. That for me is a very hard one because I'm a very enthusiastic and I love doing a lot of things. And for me, it's really hard to sometimes slow down. But that zooming out that you mentioned before, it's a pause button, right? And then you all of a sudden you see, oh, wait, this area is not going so well, so I need to focus on that. So what kind of tools do you have or do you use to zoom out, to see the whole picture, to see, oh, where are you unbalanced?
It starts with defining that stage for yourself, what we just previously talked about, right? Like, what stage are you now in? If you choose indeed to focus more on your family or on your career, make that your number one priority, because that's going to give you joy. Because once you have achievements in that area that is a number one priority for you, that's what feeds your energy. So then you can just have more output of energy.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I have this visualization exercise. So what I do is whenever I feel overwhelmed, like sometimes you have these moments where even the slightest and the easiest decision feels like the most troublesome. You just cannot make up your mind. Sometimes you have those days when you're overworked, overwhelmed, and you can't make decisions, right? So these things stress us out a lot. So my visualization exercise is really just zooming out. Find yourself, visualize yourself as you sit on a certain chair, wherever you're seated. And then you start to visualize yourself from the top, the ceiling of that house, of the room that you're in. Then you zoom out even more. Like exactly what you would do on Google Maps, right? When you're trying to find a location. So then you just zoom out and out. So then you start to see the city you're in. Then you see the country, and then you see the continent, and then you see everything from up in the sky. And then everything falls into place in a second. Because then it makes you realize that that decision that was stressing you out a lot is just such a tiny thing compared to the whole complexity of the world.
100%.
It's in a snippet, you can snap out of every single small decision that stresses you out.
So when you're feeling stressed or when you're feeling out of balance, zoom out just like Google Maps. And then you can see also everything in a bigger picture. And you also sometimes just see that some things, small details are not important, right? Is there also like a daily ritual that you have to find more balance?
I have one ritual that is helping me a lot. I wouldn't say it's something that I do on a daily basis. But these are the three main habits that I have whenever I start a new cycle, right? So maybe for the listener, I think it's also good to define what a cycle is, because we often confuse the menstrual cycle with our periods, right? We are so used to calling our periods our cycles. In fact, a menstrual cycle is the events that happen in a particular order, and the period in itself, that's just one event of the full cycle. And then the cycle is defined by the fluctuations of the hormones that trigger certain events, and then one falls after each other. So the menstrual cycle is one tool that I use a lot in this self-awareness exercise. It has helped me enormously to even deepen the connection with myself. Whenever I start a new cycle, so that's when I get my period, I regularly do three things. One, I ensure that I mark in my calendars the phases of my cycle. So then all the different activities I do for my business or for leisure, I ensure that I capitalize on the skills that are enhanced at certain phases in the cycle. And then at the same time, it allows me to be more self-compassionate towards myself. Because I know there are moments in my cycle where I'm not going to be acing a presentation, or the words are not going to flow as easily as they flow at certain phases in the cycle. So then it allows me to not be so hard on myself and just accept that it's a phase and it's part of who I am. And then second is I inform my husband about the phases of the cycle. That allows me to ensure that he knows when to be more spontaneous, when to go and have fun in dates and so on. And then the third one is setting a goal for myself for that particular cycle. Because again, that goes aligned to setting your intention for that stage you're in in a certain stage in your life, right? Like what's going to be your number one priority at that stage. And the same goes now on a more micro level when we go on each cycle. So that's on a monthly basis. What's your number one priority for that month? What do you want to achieve? That one thing, you set your goal, that's your direction, and you go after it. Because then all your decisions are going to be influenced by your goal. Let's say you have, for your business, you have now an objective to grow by a certain percentage. All those decisions, all the opportunities that are going to come your way, you're going to be able to filter them a lot easier because you have an objective, right? So all those decisions that sometimes feel overwhelming are not going to be a lot easier to do because you know what's your end objective. That balance is a way also to anchor yourself.
It all comes back to really deciding what your priorities are in your next cycle, let's say, because you can also, of course, say, oh, for the next 5 or 10 years, these are my priorities. So every time your period starts, you define your goal for the next 28 to 36 days, let's say. That's really cool. That's a really nice way to micro manifest, let's say. How do you find balance between work and experiencing pleasure, either if it's with friends or doing fun stuff or even in the bedroom? How do you make time for that and how you find balance?
That's indeed a really good question, a tricky one, right? Because nowadays we are so bombarded with all the activities, and it's really important to always have that North Star, right? Like your main objective for that stage in your life. That's going to be your number one priority. That's what's going to get, let's say, 70% of your attention. I always like to use this 80-20 ratio, but in this case, I feel that if you focus put your 80% on just one pillar, then the 20 is not enough for the rest. So maybe let's say 70-30. That's a decent ratio, I would say. So again, 70% focus on what matters to you, even if it's going to sometimes drain your energy, because it can be exhausting to build for instance, a business or work on your career growth, if that's what you are focusing on that stage. It's as simple as ensuring that your well-being is not going to suffer if you dedicate your entire energy to that one thing that matters to you. I personally love scheduling. As you know me, I love structure and organization. My brain just works in structures. So I don't know if that's a thing that I got here since I moved to the Netherlands. Because Dutch people love structure in the sense of calendars and having everything planned.
They love to plan everything, yes, for sure.
I might have picked that up from the Dutch. But I love it because it gives you a reminder that you need to make time for certain activities, right? So whether, let's say for pleasure, if that's time with your partner, be it just, go out for dinners or like having different activities together, or even to sexual pleasure, like have them not scheduled in a sense of being too rigid about them, but have them as reminders. Whether they are in the back of your head somewhere, make conscious decisions. Set like a mental reminder for yourself that those areas in your life also need your attention.
You are very structured. I've come to know you and I think it's so cool. It's very inspiring. You are very left-brained, as I know. So I'm very right-brained. I do everything in flow. I'm one bomb of creativity. And finding structure and planning out my month like that is just, I don't know even where to start. What would your advice be for those women out there that are not as structured, but that really want to find that balance in life between their career-driven goals, their work or their businesses, and their pleasure? It
would be interesting to look at those moments that are stressful for you, right? Because balance ultimately is that state where you decompress, where you ensure that you're in flow, you're enjoying your life. So we could start with, again, I'm going to give you some structure, but you have those moments that stress you out, where stress is present in your life, right? So make that a category. And then you'd have moments where stress is absent. Such as, just chilling on the couch or watching a favorite show or just do nothing. And then you have those moments that help you recover from all the inflammation in the body that was caused by stress. And I think it's really important to make this differentiation between the three of them, because you would say, oh, I decompressed after a very busy day at work. I just sat on the couch and watched some TV. That's not entirely true, because what happens in the body, your body is not actively going through a cleanse. Your body is inflamed from the stressors in your life. So you need to actively engage in activities that are going to decrease the inflammation in the body. And if you don't resonate with what the mainstream wellness is telling you, like meditation, if that bores you to death, don't meditate. If that's not your thing, you're just going to add, more stress on your body. That's unnecessary. So find activities that help you decompress. It can be a walk in the park. It can be a hike in the nature. It can be just walk your dog. You put an intention behind that activity. Once you put an intention behind it, then it becomes a ritual. So those tiny rituals are going to help you find that balance. And even if it's something that gives you joy, let's say again that you focus a lot on your business. So you would say that that's your number one priority. So that's where you want to put your energy in. But some days are going to be very stressful. You need some other activities to balance that out, even if it's your number one priority, right? So balance comes from those intentional moments that you do for yourself to decompress, to help your body lower the inflammation.
Yeah, that's so true. While you were speaking, I'm just thinking, yes, this is exactly because for me, I can work until kingdom come. Like I can work for 24/7 if it's up to me, because I love my work. I'm so passionate about the whole purpose. I mean, UMAVERSITY is really my purpose. But sometimes I get so stressed about all the things that need to happen, right? When I go to yin yoga, that's a ritual for me. Or when I do some breath work in the morning, or just taking a shower, or taking a walk in the zoo, or even for me sometimes it's kind of weird. You would say that your body's so tired, but going out dancing is such as I can just dance everything out. So having those little rituals to make sure that the stress with the relaxedness, right?
Exactly. And a lot of people would say, but I just came from work and I had an extremely busy day. I overworked myself and I just sat on the couch. That's because sometimes we become lazy. Like our energy supplies are exhausted. So we just want to chill and just do nothing. But unfortunately, that's not enough for the body to help that inflammation, to heal that inflammation that is caused by stress. So as you said, indeed, those activities where you put some intention behind, those are the ones that do the trick.
So it's all about focus, setting priorities, and also setting intentions. So balance is actually a very proactive thing, if I'm understanding. So finding balance is not something that naturally comes to you. It's actually something that you have to really put effort in and be mindful about. How do you find balance with your nutrition, your fitness, and the rest of your life as a woman?
So for me personally, at this stage of my life, my number one priority is my business, right? I am very much aware that without the proper fuel, I am not going to be able to achieve my goals. So again, we have nutrition and the physical activity as the two pillars of the table, right? So without balancing those two legs, I'm not going to be able to achieve my goals. Compared to how, for instance, my life looked like 2-3 years ago, where fitness was my main priority, now my life has entirely shifted from that. I no longer go to the gym 6-7 days every week. And I no longer, put an emphasis on all the macros that I consume to really get to that lean physique that I was aiming to a few years ago. I still go and move. Movement is such an important element for our bodies. I'm a big fan of weightlifting. So I fell in love with weightlifting actually a few years back. And I'm still an advocate for weightlifting for women especially, not only for the physical benefits, like how our bodies are changing and the body composition changes with fitness and with weightlifting, but also for the health of hormones, right? So as we age, especially after the age of 30, the hormones start to decline. And estrogen is the one hormone that with its decline the muscles in the body also start to shrink. And then those muscles get replaced by fat. And weightlifting is a great tool to counteract that. So you start building lean muscle and you counteract the loss of a muscle that turns into fat. So, and not only that, but also you're preparing slowly for those years towards menopause and after menopause. So what happens then, your body is depleted by estrogen. And with that, not only that, you gain extra fat that is unwanted, but also your bone health is going to suffer. So if you want to start preventing from your early ages all these diseases that we saw our mothers going through, and you know, the women dearest to our hearts, we saw them coming out of surgeries that could have been prevented if they had had more physical activity such as weightlifting. So we can actually prevent this for ourselves by lifting weights. So build lean muscle. That's my message to all women out there, because it's not only going to help you during your menstruating years, it has such important benefits also in the way it helps regulating your blood sugar in your body, but also later down the line towards menopause. It's going to help you tremendously. So now back to the question. In my current stage, I use nutrition and fitness as fuels for my work. They are not my number one priority in the sense of being extremely orthodox about them. I still think nutrition is essential, and especially when it comes to hormonal health, right? So if I want to have regular cycles, painless cycles, and really be able to fully express myself in all shapes of form and feel good in my body every single day, I know that nutrition is going to be key. Start your day with savory breakfasts, always. That's something I preach and I follow. The way you start your day is how you are going to have your day unfold.
So what do you eat, for instance?
So for breakfast, I always go for protein-rich meals. That's eggs next to some cottage cheese and avocados. I try to put my intake of bread and carbs lower in the morning, and that's for two reasons. One is blood sugar. So what happens when you put in a lot of carbs in the morning, or if you have desserts such as pancakes or, you know, sweet granola with some fruits and yogurt, that can spike your insulin in the morning, and it's going to increase the glucose levels, which is going to only give you that roller coaster of food cravings and mood swings throughout the day. Because the more of a spike you have after such a meal, you're going to have your glucose dip. And when you have the dip, you will naturally want to go after a high again. It's like an addiction. So you go high after eating a sweet meal, you feel great because you have a boost in your serotonin in your brain. So then afterwards, you fall back, even now lower than your baseline. Then you go again for something sweet. Then you're going to go enter this roller coaster that can be a never-ending one. And blood sugar has a huge impact on our hormones. And it can lead to so many imbalances in our bodies. That's number one, blood sugar. And then second, if I create a meal that is around protein, I support my dopamine levels. So as I previously said, when you consume something high in carbs, it's going to give you a boost in serotonin, that feel good. You feel good, like easygoing, flowy, like you feel just good. You just, there's no worries in the life. Now, that's great if you want to have a very relaxed day, but it's not going to give you that sharp, productive mind that you're after if you have a busy day, right? If you want to be laser focused, you want to boost your dopamine levels. And that's what you get if you consume a protein-rich meal. So that's the trick about the savory breakfast. Structure them around protein. You can add some fats. Fats are incredibly healthy. Fats and protein are the building blocks for hormones. So you need healthy fats and protein to support your hormonal health. You absolutely need carbs as well. I am not against carbs because carbs are what gives your body the energy. So your body cannot produce the hormones if it doesn't have the energy to produce them. So absolutely go for carbs. Just be mindful on where you choose to eat those carbs.
So I have two questions for you. Let's say I have a work day that is from very early in the morning until very late at night. And there's only breaks in between for 20 minutes to 1 hour max. How would you find balance if you are on your period or in another phase of your menstrual cycle?
I can speak now a little bit from my own experience, how I would do it. But then, of course, let's start to try to generalize a bit to the larger audience. So I personally, if you remember what I said a few seconds ago, where I have this ritual of putting in my agenda the phases of my cycle, there will be almost never a time when I overbook my calendar during my period, because I am very much aware that that's a time for rest. The way that you take care of yourself during your period, that's what's going to set the stage for the rest of your cycle. The more you take care of yourself and the more you rest and find yourself in less stressful activities, the better you're going to feel during ovulation, the more you're going to shine and your energy is going to be up and out, and the more you're going to make the most out of the rest of your cycle. So for me personally, rest during period is key. But having said that, that's in theory, right? Like that's a perfectly staged scenario. Now, in real life, oftentimes you're going to have those days when your calendar is going to be overbooked. You don't have full control over how your day is going to look like. And often you do that intentionally, right? Because you're after something, so you have to go after it. And so I ensure that whenever I have those moments of very high intensity, very stressful days, I ensure that I prepare for them, in the sense that I make more space in my calendar a few days prior to those crazy days, or right after my period. I'm going to allow myself a few extra days where I just find more joy in moments that relax me, that help me relax.
How would you then find balance in other phases of your cycle?
So let's take, for instance, follicular phase, right? So that's the late follicular is the phase that happens right after you finish your period. So you're naturally going to feel your energy going up and outwards. That means you're going to have more capacity to fulfill all those duties you have for very stressful days. So I personally try to schedule my very intense days around the time in my cycle where I know my body and my brain capacity is equipped for those very intense moments. So I would say maybe 80% of the times I do have control over my schedule. So then I ensure that I capitalize on my hormones. I make hormones work for myself. That's how I like to put it. The moment you're going to start understanding how these fluctuations impact your output, how they impact your talent, your skill, your brain capacity, then you have more power in scheduling your days around those moments. Now I understand I'm coming from a, let's say, privileged place where I work on my own business, so I have more control over how my calendar looks like. But majority of the women, they won't have this luxury, right? So there will always be tasks that we have to do complete at work that we don't have control over. It's a given task by our managers. Also being open about it at work, in the workplace. I think there's no shame, or there should be no guilt in openly talking to your manager that you have a day off, where today your output is only, it can go up to 40%. And whenever you have those days where your output can be only 40%, it's your 100%, because that's all you could give on that day. Mm-hmm. Also, as women, we tend to have to expect from ourselves to have the same performance every single day. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We are very self-critical and judgmental of our own performance. So being mindful of these fluctuations in the cycle is also a tool for self-compassion.
Yeah, because compared to men, they have a 24-hour cycle, let's say. So it's not fair for us to compare ourselves with the same output that men have, because their hormones fluctuate every 24 hours, right?
That's exactly right.
And I'm also wondering, because your cycle is regular, as I can imagine, but there are women that have irregular cycles. When you have PCOS, for instance, I have PCOS. I've had an irregular cycle since forever. And how do you then find balance with your hormones and with your work, or with a busy day like that?
It goes back to defining those moments, those rituals for yourself, where you find that your body can decompress, where your body can rejuvenate and heal all that inflammation that is accumulated from stress. Right? So define those moments for yourself and ensure that you sprinkle them across your calendar. Even if you cannot capitalize fully on those regular patterns that happen with your hormones, as long as you incorporate from time to time those habits and rituals, it's going to keep you in balance overall. So again, if we go to the zoom out exercise, right? If you are only looking at the day as your main unit for observation, you might feel deprived from energy from a very stressful day. But try to zoom out and evaluate your month as a whole. Even if you cannot tell that you are on day 13 of your cycle, and you know that once you have regular cycles, almost every day 13 will look the same and will feel the same. If you don't get to that place, at least try to zoom out and look at your month, do a retrospection, right? And look at how your previous month went. Did you allow yourself enough moments for inflammation to heal that inflammation? Did you give enough self-love to yourself? I think it starts there.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, I think that's the zoom out and the giving yourself moments of balance. And by also, I think what you said, another way of self-love is actually taking the energy and the intention to focus and prioritize what you want to do in your days or what you want to focus on. And I think that's very beautiful to how to find balance. So thank you so much. And where can people find you if they want to have a session with you or learn more from you?
Oh, absolutely. It was a pleasure speaking to you today. So I'm very active on Instagram. I post a lot of, snippets content, what Instagram allows. They can find me on the Sync Way. And also on my website, that's where they can find my services as well. I have a regular newsletter that goes out on a weekly basis where I share more in-depth content on the topic of menstrual cycle, hormonal health, and mindset. I'm also going to start a new group for my group coaching program. We start in May. So if anyone's interested in that, happy to have a chat and see how we can work together.
Yeah. Amazing. And speaking of May, Teodora Sabau will give an amazing workshop on balancing your work life and pleasure at our next event on the 19th of May in Amsterdam. So if you are in the neighborhood, definitely come and join us. Thank you so much for giving us all of these snippets of knowledge. And I learned so much from you today. So thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And I'm looking forward to the event in May. Very excited about that.
It's going to be awesome. If you enjoyed this video, it would be amazing if you could give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. And if you want to learn even more, join our community. Connect, share, and learn by joining our online and offline events. Be part of our WhatsApp community where you can meet other women and ask your burning questions to our experts, and by subscribing to our weekly educational newsletter. The links are all below, so feel welcome to join our UMAVERSITY tribe.